What's going on, everybody? We're surrounded these days, it feels like more than ever, with quotes. Famous quotes, quotes by people we admire, quotes about the times that we live in, all over our social media, quotes around ideas of success and failure. And I think for men, I'd love to talk a little bit about our ideas of success and failure and share a couple of quotes with you to illustrate my point. Quotes that I have up around me when I'm working in my little home office. I have a bunch of post-it notes everywhere, and I have a few around my desk and on my computer to help as kind of like a guide or just to keep me on a path that I want to stay on. The first quote I wanted to share with you is a quote from Oprah Winfrey. She says, "Do not think that you can be brave with your life and your work and never disappoint anyone. It doesn't work that way." Now, you might look at that quote and think, well, that's, for me, it's about courage. It's about doing what's right in a moment, in any given moment in our lives, making the right choices, doing the right thing. But some people might look at it and go, well, to me, I hear that quote and I think it's about doing what you need to do and damning the consequences, not really, worrying about breaking a few eggs or stepping on a few toes. You got to do what you got to do in this life to make things happen. And it's not about being a people pleaser, but I do think that there is an important conversation to be had around the balance between being assertive and being aggressive as guys. I think there's times in life, for example, in the field of play, where it's important to be aggressive, but it's not a way to live your life. I think it's one of the tools that we can use and have in our tool belt, being assertive in certain moments. Our ideas of success and failure tend to be gendered. I believe that we even gender ideas of success and failure so that what we perceive as success is a certain idea of masculinity, and what we deem as failure is seen as feminine. So what I mean by that is ideas of success seem to be like, about domination, about crushing everyone, being the winner and everyone else is a loser. Your victories have to come at someone's expense. So that is a narrative or an idea of what masculinity or manhood or being a real man is about, domination, right? And that feminine traits like being emotional and is weak, and it's traits of failure. So for me, it's important to kind of rupture all that. And I do think it's important to think about the impression that we have on people, and especially talking about social media in this day and age. We're so obsessed with the impressions that we have, literally, right? Like likes and people resharing and views and things like that. And for me, I think it's about worrying less about the impression that we have on others and focusing more on the impact we leave with others. How do we leave people feeling about our interaction, feeling about the world we live in, feeling about where we work if we're working together, or our city, our community, how they feel about men or us as men. So I think that when we are trying to adhere to this idea of success and it's this kind of domination narrative, I think it's important to pause and think about the impact that we have and the cost to those ideas. Facebook, you probably heard, had this mantra that was on their walls, a saying that was someone saw on their wall, and it said, "Move fast, break things." And I think we know that Facebook now is is at the root of so many problems that we're facing in our society, because they were driven to have success at all costs and not thinking about the costs or the impact that they were having. So with that rise and grind mentality, I think what you need to add into the mix is it mindful? Am I being mindful? Am I being present in the impact that we have? I know, speaking for myself, there was a time in my life where I was very ambitious and very assertive. I was very driven, to address issues, and driven by an urgency around social change, social justice, making an impact and seeing that there's so much work to be done. And sometimes it feels like there's so many people with ideas of what we need to do, and there's so much discussion and infighting, if you will, around how to do it, the right approach. It's kind of like driving a bus. People have different routes they want to take, different ways they want to take. We need to pick up this person and that kind of thing. at some point someone needs to drive the bus. And I do believe that. But now I look back in that different stage of my life and I think about how I would approach things differently, trying to find a sweet spot where I'm being assertive in my life and making things happen, but not doing it in a way where I'm not thinking of the impact I'm having, or not thinking about moving at a pace so fast that I can't pick up on things. You know, if you've ever been in a car, a super fast race car, or have ever speeded in your life, you know that the quicker you go, the slightest move that you make can leave you in a ditch. So sometimes when you're moving so fast, you can't recognize the impact of the slightest things that you do. So it's not about being hyper focused in your life and being hyper present to the point of paranoia, but it's finding that, again, sweet spot of being mindful and present in what you're doing. Because the idea of going from assertive to aggressive and full bloom, what that looks like is being ruthless. And ruthlessness might equate success in one endeavor as a man, but it adds up to failure as a human being. And I think that is what we need to look at. The holistic idea of being a man is embracing ideas of being assertive and strong-willed, and having courage and having drive and focus, but also that's tied to having emotional literacy, being informed by empathy, love, wanting fairness and equality in what we do, you know, and how we move around in life and navigate life. So I think about, you know, again, that false idea of success, and I think of this quote that I absolutely love, and it says, "Know the difference between those who stay to feed the soil and those who come to grab the fruit." I love that. It's an anonymous quote, but I absolutely love it because it speaks to what I'm talking about, where there are people who it's about success at all costs, and it's about going for mine, and your problem is not my problem, you know? And the other side of that is that sometimes as men we go the other direction, where we are hyper fixated on being the fixer, on solving problems. Like, I need to be the solution, not the problem as a man. So I got this. I always got this. Like, I don't need to ask for help, ask for directions. I can take care of any problem that comes your way, that comes my way, that comes our way. I got this. And I think what's helpful as men is we can go from I got this to I got you. Now, we need to be, you know, helpful in our lives, and trying to help fix things is noble, and there's good intention in that, right? Like, you want to be someone who's fixing or solving problems in your relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, maybe with your children. But sometimes I think we need to understand that our value is in being a helper, in being a supporter. We don't have to be the hero. We don't have to solve and fix everything, right? So, you know, part of that is, again, it's this idea that we need to perform and prove that we are men, and it's this idea in our head that's driven in us. It's this programming that we gotta, like, fix things and solve things, because that's my worth. My value is in that I can not just contribute, that I can be the fixer and solve things. So we can go from the fixer to the helper, right? Helping is manly. Volunteering is manly. You don't need to be the leader. You don't need to be at the top of the ladder here. When we volunteer, for example, that's leadership. Being the first follower to support an initiative is leadership, right? You can walk into a room and, you know, your energy is like, who do I need to know here? How can I impress everyone? Whose business card do I need? Who's important? But you can walk into a room with your energy being like, how can I serve? How can I give? How can I help? The measure of a man is not what we can demonstrate or what we own or what we can prove. I think the measure of a man is how we serve, how we give, and how we live. That's the way we can measure ourselves as men and stop this, you know, literal dick measuring contests or ideas of what performative manhood is. It's really, the success is in contributing to the society, contributing to community, building community, nurturing and growing community, and in turn growing ourselves, right? So for me, that comes to a place of being present and mindful in what we're doing so that we're achieving our goals and making things happen, but it doesn't have to be with the mentality of at the expense of others. I love my last quote I want to share with you is by Hima Batavia, and the quote is, "And in a world of distractions, being present is a revolutionary act." So for me, it's about how we can be that model for others. We can be a lighthouse for others as we're trying to ourselves figure out this journey. And in essence, being the lesson in action.